Introducing the map from turkeyseason.com. Season dates, bag limits, license costs for all 49 states with the wild turkey season curated into one easy-to-use interactive map. Statistical data shows spring harvest date totals for each state. Historical weather data will allow the out-of-state hunter to easily see weather conditions they will face during their spring hunting season. Zone maps provide information for licensing requirements, draws or quota hunts, and variances in season start dates across individual states. Visit turkeyseason.com and click on the map.
For my work, with this Actigel and concrete, I'm one of 3 people on this planet that know anything about Actigel and concrete. So I got that going for me. But if I am semi-confident in what I'm talking about, I don't really have a problem. And another thing to think about too, like it's almost like we were talking about with social media, or hiding behind the screen or whatever, like whatever you want to call it. How many of those people that you speak to are really going to have the balls to come up to you and critique you on what you said or did?
Yeah.
And I find a little bit of comfort in that. I'm like, well, I'm probably never going to see the majority of these people ever again, or just, whatever the situation is, but you just gotta relax. They're just people.
That's it. It's funny, man. The first time that I got, like, I'm going to use air quotes, like internet hate from people, I was like all worked up about it. I'm like, oh my God, this guy told me I suck, and then I'm a clown. And then I'm like, but I'm right. Like, I know that I'm right. I know that, like, what I said is right, and I know that, like, there's all sorts of people that are like, you're right. It was just, like challenging, like deep set mindsets and traditions, and when you challenge those, and I dipped my toe in the internet, it was about shooting jakes. And it's funny. I made the comment on this podcast, that jakes don't, I was like, there's 0% chance that a jake is breeding. And so, it's like 1%, right? Less than 1%. And I did a podcast with Michael freaking Chamberlain and Brett Collier, and I asked them the same question that people were crucifying me online about, right? And Mike Chamberlain's like, it's not happening. Jakes aren't breeding. And he's just like, and it's funny, because in the podcast, I'm trying to get him to say dry humping. And he's like he's a total professional, right? And he called it like copulating. And I'm like, Mike, listen, man, I'm not going to Google what copulating is. Just say dry humping. And he just starts laughing. But he's like, just because you see him copulating or dry humping, Paul, doesn't mean that they're breeding. They don't breed. He's just like, it doesn't happen. And so, but dude, people were roasting me online. So one point, some guy was like, I will shoot you in the face with TSS. And I was like, wow, these people are serious. And like, talking to the guy who I was on his podcast, the OK It's Hunter guys, he was like, dude, that's crazy. I'm like, man, I like it. That's, because people care. If people didn't care, they didn't want to protect something, they wouldn't get all up in arms about something. I was like, so like, I do appreciate that people, like turkey hunting specifically, they put some of us put a little fence around it, man. And it's like Dave and I said, you say some dumb stuff, man, we're gonna get you. So.
Yeah, they're always watching. The world's always watching, no matter what. But one thing I've recognized for a long time now, social media isn't real life. The people that you interact with online or through social media, that's not really who they are. I mean, there are a few people, I think that I've met that they're exactly how I talked with them in the comment section. The age of social media, we can connect so easily nowadays.
Yeah.
And but the difference in a comment section on Instagram, Facebook, whatever, that comment section is a vast, universally different crowd than if you set all those people in a room together. And I travel a lot. I've been to 48 states, all the lower 48, mostly for work, and flown everywhere, been in airports, been just around people for well over a decade now. And I have very rarely, I could probably count on one hand, and even if I didn't have all my fingers on one hand, I could probably still count on one hand, like the amount of people that acted like they do in the comment section of,
Yeah.
Social media posts.
Yeah.
It's just that veil, that screen, that's a barrier. You can say
Yeah.
what you want, you can post what you want, you can do what you want with no, actual repercussions. And if you said some of those things, like if I was sitting on a plane next to somebody who had all, let's just say they were anti-hunting vegan, and they were sitting next to me on the plane, I am very confident we could still have a very civil conversation, and they wouldn't act like they would if I posted something, if I posted a turkey picture or whatever online.
Yeah.
They wouldn't come in, they wouldn't act like they would if they came into that comment section and just started raising Cain with me. We'd have a civil discussion because, you're face to face, and just people will just act differently when you're in front of them, and social media just isn't real life.
No. No, that's absolutely right, man. I don't you and I we've never met in person, but I'm a big guy, man. I'm like 6'3", 275, and most of these, and that's not, I'm not like an NFL guy, but most of these people online are like, "You piece of shit," like they're gonna get next to me like, "Wow, this guy is a lot bigger than me."
Yep.
I'm just gonna move on. So there's a
Yeah,
funny picture of Parker and I. We met in person at the NWTF event or convention last year. And he's like, "Damn, you're a lot taller than I was expecting." He like comes up to like my chest. It's great. It's one of my favorite pictures ever. One, because Parker is awesome, man, and I just really
Yeah.
like I enjoy that guy, and it was cool getting to meet him. But it was just, man, it was just such a good moment, man, getting to meet him in person finally. So,
Mhm. No,
do
he's a
you?
real good dude.
How did you guys meet?
I mean, online,
Okay.
just through Facebook or, social media or whatever. I guess I started following Southern Ground when he got it up
Yeah.
off the ground, no pun intended, and just kept up with him because there were only back then, he started along the same time when Jacob and Andrew started, Southern Outdoorsman.
Yeah. Yeah.
And back then, I think that was it. I think that was all of the Southern hunting podcasts. You know, you still had you had Wired to Hunt, and you had Dan, with the Nine Fingers, and
Mhm.
Meat Eater, of course, and it just wasn't what it is today. And so it was just a much smaller, group of people, and so it was just real easy to connect with Parker and keep up with him, and just trade trade messages every now and then. And I think I was on the
Yeah.
podcast like in 2019, and we just kept in touch with each other. And he went hunting with me out in Montana this past year with my buddy Jacob and I. And so we spent a week together in Montana. And so you really get to know somebody when you spend a week hunting with them.
Yeah. Were you
And
turkey hunting?
oh yeah, we
Okay.
went out there middle of May, and did great. There was three of us. We had 3 tags apiece, and we filled every one of them.
Mm.
But yeah, zero complaints about Parker. It was great being out there with him.
Yeah. I love turkey hunting with just people you've never done, you've never turkey hunted with. Don't get me wrong. I
Mhm.
love hunting with my son and my buddies here in town, but it is pretty cool, man, getting to share, turkey hunt, a couple days with some folks that you haven't, man. There's something about deer camp or turkey camp that just like dude just galvanizes a friendship, and I love that,
Mhm.
man. That's so even if you never met him, you might never see him again, but you're always going to be friends.
Oh yeah, there's a couple folks that I may have spent a couple days hunting with 5, 8 years ago, whatever, and I still stay in touch with those guys. I haven't seen them since. Hadn't really. We would just communicate a few times a year, maybe, but we still have that one core memory of being together in the woods and turkey hunting or whatever kind of hunting we were doing. It's a really bonding experience
Yeah.
for anybody.
Yeah, it's funny. I think Cuz he's talked about it a lot. Where you the first time you go out and hunt with someone, and you don't know how they hunt, their style of hunting or calling, or if they're a good caller or whatnot, and woodsman skills or whatever. and he's right. There's like that weird, like, okay, who's going to call, like that turkey gobbled, like, okay, who's going to make the first move? You know, you just kind of look like, you know, are we doing this? Like, what are we going to do? Who's
Yeah,
hitting this?
you're still trying to sort out the pecking order there about
Yeah.
whose role is what.
Yeah. It was neat, man. This spring I got to hunt with Mike Pentecost from Woodhaven. We hunted a
Mm.
couple times together. And it was really neat, man, because like that dude, I mean, the guy he's as good as anyone on the face of the planet at chasing wild turkeys. And it was just really cool to get that hunt in with someone that is just like elite, man, that has been doing it for years. And the second time we went out, I didn't even bring like a turkey. I didn't bring a single turkey call. It's like, I'm not even going to use these. I don't know why. I'm just going to save the weight, you know, but it was cool, man. Just sitting there watching someone like that, just work, you know, just calling and how they see the woods. And you just can't help but learn from a guy like that, you know. Do you get out in the woods with any of those old timers, man, that have been
No, I was
hunting
actually
turkeys for?
I was actually just trying to think. You know, I think the only person that I've really hunted with that had significantly more experience than me was like the first time I ever went turkey hunting. It was my ag teacher from high school. And I've told this story oodles of times, but long story short, he'd come into class, you know, like the beginning of the spring semester or whatever, and he'd have, you know, pot calls or box calls, and he'd be tinkering with them, playing with them, calling with them, and he'd have mouth calls and everything else. And uh, the turkey hunting culture just wasn't that significant, you know, where I grew up in Tennessee. I don't consider Tennessee like a quote unquote blue chip turkey state like Alabama or Mississippi,
Yeah.
you know, Louisiana, and, you know, a handful of others. We just didn't have turkeys for so long. You know, my dad he didn't turkey hunt. He couldn't remember having turkeys until the late 80s, you know, into the 90s. But anyway, my ag teacher is the one that kind of got me into turkey hunting. And when he started messing around with his calls in the classroom, it just piqued my interest because everybody deer hunted. But, you know, my deer hunting was just, we'd build a wooden stand up into the forks of a, you know, big tree and over a cattle pasture, and that was deer hunting. That's just what deer hunting was to us. And so turkey hunting just opened up another door, like, oh well, you can actually do things while you're hunting. You don't just have to sit in one place and freeze to death for 4 hours or longer. You know, you can move around and you can interact, and it was just a lot more excitement involved. And he came out to our farm, and we didn't kill anything, but I think, you know, I got to hear turkeys. I don't even think I had heard turkeys gobble, but not, you know, while I was hunting them. You know, I guess you know, working around the farm in the spring or just doing whatever in whatever other situation. But to be actively listening for them and trying to get a response out of one, you know, that really struck a chord with me.
Yeah.
And ever since then, it like I said, I hadn't really hunted with anybody else that had significantly more experience than me. I've hunted with a few guys that were a little bit older than me, like maybe a handful of years, but we were kind of about the same in amount of years, I guess, spent turkey hunting. So I didn't really have a mentor. I still credit, you know, Ron Mayberry, my ag teacher, for just giving me that nudge into the turkey hunting world. And, you know, here I am now, well over 20 years now, or maybe right at 20 years, in the turkey woods. And it's just gotten better and better and better, you know, as an experience ever since, every spring.
Yeah. That's cool, man. When do you think, like, at what point were you just flat out like hooked, man? Like, it just turkey hunting got its claws in you, and you
I
know what I'm talking
remember
about, like.
I remember the hunt I was on, or I remember the specific hunt, and it wasn't my first time killing a turkey, and I don't think it was like the first handful, or maybe even the first, you know, few or whatever turkeys where this happened. My first turkey was just a Jake, and, you know, like I said, my dad never turkey hunted; he deer hunted, but like I said, our deer hunting was just waiting, just pick a spot and wait. And that was our deer hunting. Well, we kind of approached turkey hunting like that at the beginning. We just build brush blinds in the edge of cattle pastures and wait for turkeys to come by. And my dad had gotten me this, Lynch box call. I still got it. And I finally started tinkering around with it and making turkey noises. I didn't have any clue what I was doing, but it sounded close enough. And so I don't even know if I called in a bird or what, but a Jake came by and I had an old hatchback Belgian Brown and a 20 gauge. And I don't even remember what kind of shells, whatever number 6 shot squirrel shells or whatever was rolling around in the drawer at home. And probably I had a modified barrel on it. It was not a turkey gun by any means, but I shot this Jake, and I had never shot a turkey. I've never seen a turkey die. Yeah. And so I had no idea they flopped that much when you shot them. Now, when I deer hunt with a rifle around home, anything under 150 yards or so, I shoot them in the neck, right in front of the shoulder, in the neck bone, and they drop right in their tracks. And so when I shot this turkey and it commenced to just flopping and, raising cane and everything else, I was like, oh, this thing's about to get away. Yeah. And so I emptied the chamber on this shotgun. I think I used up all my shells. And of course, I kept shooting its head. And by that time, it was just all to pieces and it was a mess. And it was still flopping. And I was just kind of just defeated, I guess. I was just standing there watching it flop, waiting for this thing to die. And it finally did. But yeah, that was my first turkey. And the next few turkeys that I killed, I killed some gobblers. There was a gobbler, a couple of Jakes or whatever. I don't even remember now, but there was a few turkeys in between that first turkey and this hunt that I'm about to tell you about. The hunt that I really got hooked was, I don't remember the year. I don't remember how old I was, but I do remember I had started absorbing a little bit more, turkey hunting, videos and media and magazines were still a big deal back then. And, turkey hunt VHS tapes or DVDs or whatever. I was learning more and more about how to quote unquote properly hunt turkeys instead of just bushwhacking them. And so I had got a leafy suit, and I had saved up some Christmas money and I bought one of those Pretty Boy decoys, those big giant strutting decoys or whatever with a lay down hen. And I was real proud of that thing. And it came in the giant laundry. It looked like a laundry sack, a big mesh, I guess a duck decoy sack is what it's more like. But it looked like you could fit a 50-gallon barrel in it. And so I was just hunting, our farms or whatever around home there. And so I didn't have to tote it very far, but still I just looked like Santa Claus, toting this giant bag across the field. And so this one particular morning, I went out to one of our farms and I was just going to set up and call a little bit and see what happened. I'd never really roosted a bird, didn't know where these birds were roosted, but there were just turkeys on this place all the time. So I went and set up at the edge of the field, set up my decoy and the little lay down hen that come with it. And right after daylight, a turkey gobbled way across the other side of this field. The field is, 400 or 500 yards, wide or whatever. And there was a rise kind of 60 yards away from me, from my edge of the field, so I couldn't see across it. And from the other side of this field, I heard the turkey gobble. And over the course of the next, half an hour or so, I'd call and he'd gobble and he'd gobble and I'd call, and we were just trading back and forth. And I could tell he was getting closer and getting closer. And this may have actually been the first turkey that I actually interacted with, for sure calling, like he was for sure answering me and I was answering him. And so he kept getting closer from what I could hear, and he got quiet for a little bit. And since I couldn't see anything, I couldn't see across the field, I was like, oh man, he's left or just whatever, And then it probably wasn't a few minutes later, his head pokes up, and it starts kind of looking around, I was like, oh, well, here he comes. And he struts over that rise in full strut, and he sees that decoy, that Pretty Boy decoy, and he just drops all his feathers and he runs. He looked like, Velociraptor, running across the field. And he runs right up to that decoy, starts, doing the dance around and flogging it and beating on it and everything else, and he's knocking it over, and he's just beating the tar out of this thing. And I just bought this decoy. You know, I was like, oh man, I need to kill this thing, or he's going to tear up this expensive decoy I just bought. And I forget. I finally got a shot off at him. I either stopped him or whatever. But anyway, I shot him, and it killed him right there, right in his tracks. And I remember running up to him, and he didn't have a beard. And I was like, oh no, what have I done? But I knew for sure it was a gobbler, full fan, strutting, you know, gobbling bird. And I got to looking around in his feathers, like digging around in his feathers, and something had pulled his beard out. Like, I don't know if it had to have been something, you know, significant. Because if you pull the turkey's beard out, you know, it doesn't just fall out. You got to tug on that thing. And so I don't know if, you know, coyote or a bobcat or, you know, something got a hold of him or whatever. But anyway, something had pulled this joker's beard out. And I remember he had big old spurs, big heavy bird, you know, and I couldn't explain, you know, the feeling of that hunt. You know, I can tell you, like, oh, the previous turkeys that I'd killed, you know, just sitting in the blind and shooting a turkey, like, oh, okay, you know, this is still pretty cool. It's still better than deer hunting, you know, because I could still call and I'm kind of on the ground level, out eye, you know, all these other things. But this hunt, I actually interacted with this bird and got him to come in and got to see, you know, the show, you know, that we all talk about, I guess, and got this thing on the ground. But that's the hunt that like really kicked things off. Like, okay, I would much rather do this, you know, than deer hunt. If I have to choose one, I'm choosing this one. And to this day, this is the tribe that I've chosen, you know, the turkey hunting tribe. And you know, deer hunters, as many of them as there are, it's just, you know, us turkey hunters, we're just like a closer knit group of people. We have varying opinions. We have just our own sets of, you know, standards and what we consider ethics and everything like that. And I'm sure you find that in the, you know, the deer hunting community too. But I don't know, turkey hunters are just different. We're just way different than deer hunters, I think.
Yeah. You said something that was very, very striking to me. You didn't even realize that he didn't have a beard on him. Like,
no,
I mean, that's like, it's, you know, and to me, like, now with perspective, I'm sure that was because it didn't matter that he didn't have if you know, I know some states it's illegal to harvest. I think it was Mississippi or something. You can't shoot a bird with a smaller beard or whatever the rule is. But at that moment,
at the time, you know, the regulations said in Tennessee a bearded bird, and so I was kind of panicking. But in the back of my mind, I was like, man, this thing used to have a beard, and he's got a spot where a beard used to be. And I actually, when I went to the check-in station to turn him in, the game warden that I knew in the county, he was actually there, and I was telling him about, you know, everything that happened. I said, David, he didn't have a beard. And when I walked up to him after I shot him, he did not have a beard, but you know, the spot was there or whatever. And he just, you know, waved it off. He's like, hey, that's fine, you know?
Yeah.
So it wasn't that big a deal.
But it's just, you know, like, so many people like turkey hunters, right? Like that's not a thing. Like, I've never, of all the turkeys I ever shot, I've never looked at a turkey and been like, his beard's not big enough. I'm not going to shoot that turkey.
Mm-hmm.
I've never done that. And, you know, like I shot my first Osceola this year, and I put it up on Go Wild, and someone asked me, they're like, hey, how long was the beard? And this is like 3 or 4 days after I shot the bird. I'm like, you know, I have no idea. I didn't even measure it. I have no idea. I need to go back and look at it. And some people, you know, it's important to know after, but you know, it's, man, I've had some people tell me, like, I had one guy in a comment section say that, and this is crazy to me, that he's teaching his 14-year-old daughter that if a turkey doesn't have a big beard and it doesn't have big spurs, that this is literally his words. I took a screenshot of it, that there's nothing to show for that hunt. And I was like, dude, you have missed the point of turkey hunting.
Yeah, he is not a turkey hunter.
Dude, you're not even on the same planet. right? Is in I was like, I was so, and I don't know this guy from Adam, right? I'm never gonna meet this guy. But like I felt sad for that guy, and I felt sad for his daughter. Like that's not that ain't turkey hunting, man. Like,
Mm-mm.
dude, they come in, they're dancing around, they're gobbling, they're doing the thing, they're doing the dance. That's it, man. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
what we're, like you said, that's what we're all looking for at that point for you. I mean, I would imagine like that was like the reason you were hooked. I mean, you tell me, but I mean, like all of a sudden it's personal. It's a very
Yeah.
intimate hunt at that point. You know, like you see this turkey doing his thing. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Talking about the I guess the trophy aspect or whatever,
Mhm.
of turkey hunting versus deer hunting. I've described turkey hunting as it's almost like I don't know if you've gone to college or whoever, if you've gone to college per se, and you remember all the years in college, the 4 years, maybe the 6 years, if you took a long way around, you remember all of those experiences through college. But how much do you remember about getting your diploma, after college or walking across the stage or whatever? You remember it, of course, but there aren't that many details that you really, have taken in and kept for, decades now. But and a good turkey hunt to me, is something similar. Like you remember everything from maybe the time you get out of the truck all the way up to the shot, and you don't remember taking the shot per se. Like I guess in a sense, like it's not just a core memory that you're going to retain unless like something weird happens, some unusual circumstance. You don't really remember pulling the trigger and killing the bird. But you do remember the journey that it took to get there.
Yeah. That's what it's the process, man. I'm obsessed with the process. That's the best part of
Hmm.
it, you know. And I think I can't remember if I talked about this with Dave. I think some of the best turkey hunts I've been involved with, uh, I didn't squeeze the trigger. You
Oh,
know, like
absolutely.
it's just, I mean, dude, I've walked out of the woods empty-handed, and I'm like, "That was freaking amazing. Oh my god." And I just wanna, like,
Mhm.
call someone. I gotta tell someone about this hunt. That was amazing. And, my wife's like, "Did you shoot anything?" I'm like, or, "No, did you catch anything?" It's like, "No, I didn't, but listen to what I'm trying to say and, like, tell you. Like, listen, how awesome was that?" And she's like, "Oh, okay. Yeah, thanks. Glad you spent 12 hours in the woods away from our family to come back empty-handed with nothing but a great story." I'm like,
Oh, yeah. It just doesn't resonate with wives for some reason. It just doesn't hit them quite
"Yeah,
like we would hope. But yeah,
no."
the best turkey hunts that I can remember vividly involve, other people, kind of like what we were talking about earlier, sharing the woods with somebody, and especially somebody that holds that same passion as you, or even somebody that just hasn't gotten bit just yet. But
Yeah.
after they pull that trigger and that bird's on the ground and they're trying to gather their emotions and everything else, like you can kind of tell when a turkey hunter is born, after they shoot a turkey. Could be like, oh, okay, this is still cool. Or it could be like, I have no idea how to process this. I don't know what to do with my hands, you know.
Yeah.
But
I don't
those
know
are
what to
the
do with
most,
my hands. That's funny. That's
yeah,
it, man.
they
Yeah.
just kind of stand there because they just
Yeah.
don't know what to do. And
Yeah.
but they just know that they are just awestruck by what happened, especially
Yeah.
if it's a lot of interaction, gobbling, a lot of action. Period.
The Osceola hunt that I did this year, a really good friend of mine. We've known each other for 25 years, and his family they have a big farm down in the southern zone in Florida. So I went and they see turkeys all the time. They never they none of them hunt, right? I mean they deer hunt and then they pig hunt, but none of them turkey hunt. And so I took my friend Clyde out, and we go out in the morning, and we heard a couple gobbling, and it was just we both forgot bug spray. It was miserable. So like 9 o'clock, I'm like, dude, I'm like I can feel malaria growing in my blood. We gotta go. So we pull out, we come back, and it's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It is hot, man. It's like 95 degrees. And I'll stuff her through anything for a turkey hunt, right? We're just kind of sitting on there's just this little grassy area, and we're sitting on the edge of this little cypress swamp. And I turn around and look at he's just off to my right. We're kind of sitting real close to each other under these little live oaks. And I look at him, he is dumping sweat, and I can tell like he is miserable, man. He's not a turkey hunter. He's not having fun. And so I pull my mask down. And I'm laying my shotgun on my legs, and we're just talking. Is just like you and I are talking. He's like, dude,
Mm-hmm.
this is crazy. He's like, when are we gonna, when do you want to pull it in? I'm like, golly, let's just see. Pow. And I mean, just erupts. And I see his eyes get this big, and he's like, that's what they sound like. I'm like, yeah. And we like we slowly pull our mask up, and this turkey's like, ow, ow. And he's, dude, he comes right over my shoulder, and I take a shot, and I use TSS, and he's about, dude, he's less than 10 yards from me. And that
Wow.
TSS was so knotted up when it came out, it went right over his head. And he turns,
Mm.
and I have I have a Browning A5, and I kind of like just move again. I shoot him again. I shot him from 24 yards was where I shot him.
Mm-hmm.
And I hop up, and my buddy Clyde comes running over, and dude, like I've been waiting for this for a long time, man. My first Osceola, like I was jacked, dude. And I run over and I pick this thing up, and like I didn't pick him up. I just like laid there, and I was like looking at him, and I look up, and I'm talking, and I look up my friend. He's like filming this, like he's got his phone down like this. I didn't even realize that he was recording it. And finally, I'm like, "Did you record all that?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Put that phone down. Come over here, man. Like, look at this thing." And he's like, "Dude, I didn't know that's what they sounded like." He's like, "It sounded like an alien." He's like, "Oh my god, that was so loud. I could feel it. What was that noise he was making?" He was just like tripping over his words. I'm like, "Gotcha, bitch. Like, you're in, man. You're like, gotcha." It was so, dude. Joey, it was so loud. I've never had a turkey gobble like less than 10 yards from me, and I had it twice last year.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just, dude, it was just unbelievable. And have you hunted Osceolas?
I have not. I'm actually hoping to get down to Florida this spring
Okay.
and get an Osceola under my belt. But that's the last subspecies I need for, I guess, the Royal Slam or whatever. Um,
Okay. You got
I've
the
just
goals. Good for
gradually,
you, man.
gradually just kind of nipped away at different ones, and
Yeah.
maybe after the Osceola, I'll start working on different states. But I just haven't gotten bit by that 49 state slam bug yet.
Yeah.
It just I got to, I'll come up with all these excuses right now of
Yeah.
why I don't want to do it right now. But I got two young kids. It's just being gone every weekend,
Yeah.
for 3 months just really isn't in the cards right now. It may be one day. But I got out to a couple different places last year. Usually, my buddy Jacob and I, we go together everywhere. We hunt, we hunt together, and we usually just take a week and we'll go, somewhere. Last
Okay.
year or this past spring went to Montana. In 2022, that was when we went to Mexico and Oklahoma, Nebraska, Wyoming. Just a different spot, and just hunt for the week. But this past year is the first year where I hunted, more than 2 states. I went to Oklahoma and Montana, and of course, hunted here in Tennessee, and I still loved it. But I'm just not ready to take that next step and make it into work, I guess is what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say. I get burnt out real easy, and I think that's why I kind of abandoned deer hunting, kind of the way I did, because it just wasn't as exciting to me. And honestly, I spoiled myself, hunted private land, growing up, and just shot pretty decent deer out of cattle pastures. And, it just wasn't for me, there just wasn't enough excitement enough for me to, stretch my legs out and do more with it, versus turkey hunting. And so I don't want turkey hunting to get to a point where it feels like I have to go, like it's an obligation. I just don't want it to. I'm afraid it'll be like that if I start doing that right now,
Yeah.
just with everything going on in life right now. So I'll nip away. I'll probably nip away at that 49 state thing over the course of however many decades, maybe that I've got left. But everybody that I've heard that has completed it has, I think the majority of them has said, slow down, enjoy the ride. They kind of look back, some of them do, and they say, I wish I would have slowed down instead of trying to knock out 10 states, in 1 year. So I'm trying to take that advice, or at least use that as an excuse, to not get it done in 5 or 6 years. Um, I'm just enjoying turkey hunting right now. Like, I absolutely love it, and I just don't want it to become something that I don't look forward to doing.
Yeah. I'm with you on that, man. The 49 thing, I like the idea of doing that just because
Yep.
hunting in 49 different states, like
Yeah.
they're all different, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the one thing that I like. The only like trophy completion, I guess, that I really, really want to do is kill a turkey in all 12 months. That's the one that I'm like, man,
Ah,
that's pretty cool. Because Florida, their fall
wow.
season in the South Zone starts July
July, I bet.
27th. Yep, end of July.
No kidding.
You get two turkeys in the fall, so you get July, and then you wait a couple days, and then you get August, and then the
Mm-hmm.
September seasons start, in the north, and then you can
Yeah.
bow hunt in January and February in Indiana and Utah, and then boom, you're right
We
back
might
into
get
March.
to you might get to spring hunt in Hawaii in February.
Yeah, there you
Is
go. I
there
didn't think about that. Yeah,
is there a couple of years where it opens, in late February?
I'm not sure. That'd be a good spot to check the map, I guess, on turkeyseason.com.
Yeah, there's
Shameless
your
plug.
plug.
Please,
Yeah,
please
there's your
forgive
plug.
me. Please forgive that shameless plug. Um,
You're welcome for that
uh,
layup I just gave you right
yeah,
there.
thank you, man. Thank you. I almost just bypassed it, but no, man. That's like the only like trophy that I'm like, man, that would be awesome. Like I would love to do that just because it's um I was talking to Rob Keck and he said that some of the hunts that he's done, like in the winter in Utah, he's like they're insane.
Mm,
Because those turkeys, they've kind of started that process of creating that hierarchy. And he's like,
yeah.
man, they are aggressive. They're fighting all the time. He's like, they're gobbling nonstop. And he's like, you'll hit a turkey call and you've got 15 or 20 birds to come flying over a ridge at you because they're just looking for a fight. And he's like, you're just gobbling at them and yelping. And he's just like, it's unbelievable. But it's a different type of hunt.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's the only one that I'm like, I really want to do that. But
Man.
man, if I get to the 49, I get to the 49. I just let the cat out of the bag hunting out of state. Gosh, man. 6 or 7 years ago, Tennessee was the first state that I went to.
Mhm.
And then once that happened, I mean, it was like a slippery slope because
Yeah.
now it's like, okay, man, I got to do at least like 3 states, every
Mhm.
spring. Um,
Mhm.
but I don't know, man. I like the mentality, like try to keep the I poke fun at deer hunters all the time, which I do get hate for. And I just laugh about it. But you try to keep the deer hunting mentality out of it, you know. Um,
Mhm.
and that's something that I want to protect. And I feel like it really is starting to creep in a little more than what it has in the last couple of years. I mean, do you sense that? Like, I mean, you're obviously online. You've got an online presence. I mean, you see it. You see what people talk about. You listen to the podcast. I mean, are you sensing more of that, like slipping in?
Um, as far as a trophy aspect, I don't know that I have seen that. Um, as far as length of beard, length of spurs,
Mhm.
whatever. The trophy aspect, I hadn't really, and I don't know. To be honest with you, I hadn't really paid attention to. I guess what I'm getting at is, give me an example. What are you seeing? That's of the whitetail uh, disposition. I guess a whitetail hunter's disposition that's creeping into turkey hunting.
I think the reference that I made to that comment earlier, it's not worth anything. If it's got a small beard,
Uh,
you'll see a lot of guys that there's no and I really this I consider this guy a friend. I love him to death, Dan Johnson. He'll tell me this story and
mhm.
he just does it to piss me off, right? And I'm getting mad just thinking about it. So I'll preface this by the first time he tells me, so he tells me the story about how and Dan Johnson, great guy, one of the OGs of podcasting and content creation in the hunting space, hell of a deer hunter. Tells me about the story where he kills this. He's on a farm field in Iowa, and there's a trash bag that's stuck on a corn shock, it's like sticking out like this cut corn shock, and the bag is flipping around, and this turkey sees it from across the way and comes running at a dead sprint and attacks this bag because he thinks that it's like a decoy, and then he shoots the turkey, and he's telling me the story, and I'm just like, I hate you, man. I hate everything about you. I like, but I don't hate Dan Johnson. I really do like the guy. So I'm at, fast forward like 2 years, I'm at the NWTF convention, and they're talking about, they have like a video, like user submitted like contest, and Dan Johnson submitted a video, and he freaking won that competition about the best user submitted video. And he talked, it was like, he took his wife out, and I was beside my, I've told him this story. I was beside myself. I was so angry, that this freaking guy that doesn't shoot a turkey off of a trash bag and talks about how easy it is. I was so mad. But so I've seen a lot of that where, guys will, it's, you'll make comments, or you see like people talking about like in shorts or whatever, or like the Instagram shorts or TikTok clips. It's just like, I just immature and not big enough. It's a 10-inch beard. It's not what I'm looking for. I'm like, dude, the turkey was just like full strut, man, drumming. Yeah, like you hunted him hard, man. Like, it's okay. Like, you can shoot this turkey. And I'm not bashing anyone that wants to deer hunt, but you get a lot of people that like you said, like, they will hunt a turkey like a deer. It's the same spot. You throw it, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't want anyone to feel like that. But it's not a turkey. A turkey's not a deer. Like, there's so much more like fun ways to hunt them and engaging ways to hunt them. So, I mean, I don't know if it's like, did you know you can score turkey? Like, there's an actual like score. Yeah. You can. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, and it's
crazy.
I'm kind of proud of ourselves that that's not discussed like at all. Like, you never hear somebody talk about the NWTF score of whatever turkey. And I guess the only reason they have that is to, for whatever information, gathering or whatever, to quantify, whatever kind of details about the bird. Yeah. But I am proud that you never hear about it. Like, I think you mentioning it just now is the first time I've heard it on any kind of like podcast or media or whatever. Like, you have to dig for it.
It makes me mad that I was the first one. Listen, if someone ever asked me,
snowballing from here, Paul, you just started everything. You ruined it all.
Oh God. This is going to be the clip that I put online. Just me like trying to like blow a blood vessel in my eyeball. If someone ever asked me like, hey, what'd that turkey score? I would just stand there and stare at him like, what the hell did you say to me? Did you say what this turkey scored? Yeah, on Goblin scale, 1 to 10 to 10. All right. He was loud. Gobbled his head off.
Decibels is how we score turkeys.
Oh my gosh. It's funny, man. The other day you asked me like, well, what do you want to talk about? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, the one thing that I definitely did want to talk to you about was kind of that, like the we've already talked a little bit about it, but just like protecting, what we love is turkey hunters and that very unique culture and that very unique just kind of brotherhood, that turkey hunters have. And it's someone's asked me just about like, defining a turkey hunter, and I don't know how to do it, but there's 10 million turkey hunting licenses sold every year across the country, and 9 million of those are people that I think that are just something they want to do in the spring, and that's great, man.
Yeah,
respect that. I'm glad you're doing it. And then the other million are the ones like me that, like, I hear a noise, just like a random noise. I'm like, that sounded like a hen yelp. Did you guys hear that? I was like, is that a hen? And it was like a chair squeaking, and it's just like it consumes the entertainment that you consume. It's part of like just woven into the fabric. And I think that's neat, man. I feel like that's very different. I talked about this with Brent and Dave, and I want to get your perspective, like, like why you think it is so important. Like, it's just entrenched, man, in so many people's lives at a level that it's hard to explain. And people have tried, people have tried for years, and even this guy, Tom Kelly, like it's hard to explain it. We can't do it. Like,
Yeah.
what do you think it is?
I don't. I mean, it's a passion of yours that you want to pass down and you want other people to experience. Um, Now I acknowledge that there are different ways of doing it, and there are probably certain ways that I may or may not ever do. But the way that I hunt, and I try to explain this to my wife and try to make her understand why I'm thinking about turkeys, in July on a beach vacation,
Yeah.
or something crazy like that. It's you know like here's something I'm passionate about. This is why I think it's so fun, and I want to just share it with you. And I think that's why we just want to keep it going. We want other people to experience this happiness that we have 3 months out of the year. Um, we just want to share it with everybody.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I think you could ask a million turkey hunters, and you'd probably get, 500,000 different answers, and
Hmm.
500,000's, I don't know. So,
Yeah, everybody's different. I mean, you ask a whitetail hunter, why he hunts whitetail, and he'll probably give you maybe not a similar answer, but the passion is still there.
yeah,
The passion is similar. And I hang out with or I virtually hang out, I guess, with Walt and Parker and Brett and Matt, over at the Southern Collective, and interact with the Patreon group. And the vast majority of those guys are deer hunters. And I'm like I talk smack, to them,
yeah, yeah.
every chance I get, just out of good fun. But I respect the passion.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
I respect their process, and why it is that they chase deer and whitetails. Um,
yeah,
you just have to acknowledge that people are different, and we're just all wired differently, and different things just make us tick. And hey, do what makes you happy. You're not breaking any laws. You're not hurting really anybody. Um, if you're not doing something stupid on social media, you just do your own thing, and I'll do mine, and we can respect each other's passions.
yeah. That's an important word, man. Respect. I mean, we've definitely, man, we just lost some of that, like we talked earlier, man. You kind of you lose that disconnect of like humanity and civility,
Hmm.
through a screen, and I don't like it. That's like the other one I
No.
brought up was like the copper plated sixes Instagram. I've seen you interact with
Hmm.
them, and
Hmm.
um, I hate that like that person feels the need to protect, like to do that, and if you don't know what
Hmm.
copper plate, it's just an Instagram account. It's an anonymous person. I just hate that, like, there's nonsense that goes on that, like, we have to defend against. And I watch some of
Hmm.
those, and I'm just like, God, dude, what are these guys thinking, man? Like, what are they doing? And like Dave Owens made the comment, and in my interview with him was, some of these guys, like, we gotta, especially these young guys, we gotta help them through the process, the position that they're in life. Like, as a hunter, not as an individual, but just as a hunter, like, help them work through, like, just stacking bodies and making mistakes, and
Hmm.
wounding in, whatever it is, and just like as adults and guys that are experienced, like helping these younger guys move forward. And then you see videos where it's like grown men dressed up as like Native Americans and
Yeah.
pilgrim, and I'm like, I don't normally like want to fight people, but like this makes me want to like fight someone. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just angry. Like, this is so dumb, man. Like, I just don't
Yeah.
understand. I don't understand as he says, the KFC killing for content, man.
Yeah.
Baffles
Yeah.
by it.
There's yeah. Even if you are whatever side of the fence you are on, regarding like reaping or whatever, there's still I would still consider there's a respectful way to even do that. Even if you're a staunch if you're a staunch opposition, against fanning,
Mhm.
you have to be able to admit that, okay, the guy that's camoed up and is sneaking behind a decoy or whatever, uh, trying to be stealthy or whatever, however it's done, and kills a turkey and picks it up, doesn't act a fool and doesn't act stupid. You gotta admit, hey, I would much rather see that than dude dressed like an Indian or just some colonist or whatever kind of get up that they want to dress up as and
Yeah.
just shoot this turkey, just because. I can recognize a difference in that. Whether or not that I agree with fanning or whatever, I could you could anybody can pick out, hey, that's just dumb. You don't need to show the world doesn't need to see that. And the
Mhm.
world is watching, just like were talking about earlier. The world is watching, and you are going to be judged by the world by what you post. And people see that, and if enough of the right people see something dumb on social media, then we've all had the conversation of the ammunition used against hunters. It's 100% going to come from hunters.
Yeah.
The anti-hunters or anti-trapping, whatever, anti-conservation and anti-hunting organizations that there are, um, they're going to use whatever we put out against us. And I kind of pat myself on the back a little bit in that I am confident that nothing that I've posted is going to end up on some kind of, PETA poster or
Yeah.
whatever that's going to be used against hunting. And maybe that's something that people really need to ask themselves before they put something on social media. There's a difference in putting something on social media and like sending it to like a buddy or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm still not saying, hey, it's okay to act stupid. But like, for instance, if I shoot a turkey that's 6 yards away and the wad goes through his head, I don't need to post that picture on social media.
No.
But I'm probably going to show my buddy, like, golly, man, look what happened. This is wild. But I'm not going to post it on social media. I'm not really going to
Yeah.
brag about it. It's just something, that would very rarely happen. And it's just something that you need to share with somebody, but not the world.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like the only I guess criticism I would have of like copper plated sixes and like some of these other accounts is there were just recently there was a video on his page of a young kid. I mean, this guy's probably like early 20s, mid 20s maybe.
Hmm.
Shot a mule deer, walking through it, kicks it up, and like this thing, takes off running. The kid he was excited, right? And I
Hmm.
think that's one of those like, did you play sports in high school or college?
I did not. All of my sports in high school, they were terrible. So
Okay.
I didn't
So
play.
gotcha. I remember and I'm 41. I had this coach in high school that was like, never waste a coachable moment, never waste a teachable moment, whatever that is. Like, if you were the one with experience, never waste that moment. And so I think some of those moments that are on social media, instead of like just flat out like crucifying some of these people, um, I think those are like teachable moments for an adult, either in their life because of social media or like in their life
Mhm.
just personally. I think there's moments to teach. And then there are guys that absolutely need to be drug
Yeah.
through the
Yeah.
proverbial mud on social media. um
Mhm.
so that's the one thing that I'm like, man, if we can like help some of these people through, and I'm still learning, right? You're still learning, we're all
Mhm.
still learning, and
Yeah.
no one has all the answers, right? I think just a little more patience, I guess, empathy,
Mhm.
you know. um
Well, that's going back to, what I said earlier, social media isn't real life.
mhm,
The people that post, you're not going to post everything, or most people don't post everything on social media. You're only going to see a certain side of things. So there's a lot taken we see a lot without context. And especially when like somebody like a copper plated sixes or any of the other similar accounts, when they post something like that, like we're seeing that out of context. We don't know anything
yeah,
that happened in the days leading up or the days after whatever happened, regardless of what it is. um and those guys, it's a double-edged sword. On one hand, hey, they bring to light people that probably, yeah, they need to be drug, and the world needs to know, like, hey, they don't represent, the majority of hunters. This is not what we think is cool. And on the other side, they bring to light, these exact same people. Like, okay, well, you can make the argument, yeah, by bringing them to light and by showing the world, hey, this is not what not to do. that's still giving them, publicity or, whatever, according to the Instagram, I guess, algorithm or whatever, you're going to click on that video and you're going to watch it, and it's still like feeding into their, whatever. I don't know anything really about social media, obviously, but I know I keep hearing algorithm and that it's some kind of equation that gets you more followers or whatever. So
Yeah.
I guess that's my boomer moment of the night. But yeah, it's it's good and bad, those
Yeah.
accounts. But social media, I think, is also it's also whatever you make of it. It's like TV channels. I mean, you're not forced to watch, something you don't want to watch on television. Why would you do the same thing on social media? Why do you follow something that you don't agree with, or that for whatever reason, like you have just as much ability to click unfollow, unsubscribe, whatever. You have just as much ability to do that as you do to like their post or to share their post, So that's what I say. Social media is what you make of it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I try to just follow stuff that I find interesting, and even stuff that I don't agree with, wholeheartedly. I still try to be open-minded enough that, hey, this may be something I don't agree with, but they have, they act civil and they're not trying to degrade really anybody else. They just have a difference of opinion or whatever. And so I just try to be a little open-minded, but I just don't try to feed the fire of people that, I just have no business, interacting with or care what they do. So I just don't follow those people.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you on that, man. The reaping, I've never done that.
Mm-mm.
I'm not going to do it. There's this, it's a City of Columbus Park, but it's in, it's like an easement. So there's a bunch of power lines, and it's kind of in like my general area where I live. And, so it's open to the public, and, dude, chock full of turkeys. I mean, just a beautiful, beautiful flock there. And so I've thought about getting like just like a camera and like one of those fans, and just going out like in, like March, and just like working that fan and just seeing, like, getting like real close and like taking pictures of them, watching them just like come and like beating up this fan, because that's got to be like, I've watched a couple videos where it's like they come running in, man, and just jump on that. I mean, that is like super personal. I don't like and I will fully acknowledge my bias here. I don't like the practice of using those to hunt turkeys. I'm not fond of it. I don't, once again, I'm not going to dip my toe in that. That's just not my thing, man. And I will acknowledge that bias. But dude, being a foot from a turkey, it's like getting ready to like rip. That's freaking cool, man. And so I just want to have like my Nikon Z50 in one hand and like a, like a turkey fan mounted on like a plaque, just in the other one, just like moving around just to see how close I can get, like, and I'll have like one hand, so the picture will be blurry. That'll be my luck. And then I'll get spurred. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you definitely come away with some scars after a couple of those at least.
Oh, dude, if I had to get stitches from a turkey spur, I would love it. I would pick at that thing so that it was guaranteed to scar up. Guaranteed.
Just get a tattoo of it so it never
Yeah,
goes away.
exactly, man.
Now reaping's a touchy subject, these days, and it's probably going to be for the next however long. Honestly, I'm indifferent about it. It's, to me, I can see from, more of a purist standpoint of, okay, this is not how you're really supposed to hunt a turkey.
Yeah.
But you can really go down a wormhole of ethics, so to speak. At what point, what's the cutoff point?
Yeah.
Like, do you keep going? Like, okay, the only right way to hunt turkeys is with a call and a shotgun, and you can't kill them more than 40 yards. Okay, maybe you can have decoys. Maybe you can have decoys. Okay, maybe you can have maybe just a hen decoy, or you don't need to have a Jake decoy. Or maybe you can have a Jake decoy, or maybe it's not a strutting decoy. You know what I'm saying? You can.
Yeah,
You can
it's a
keep going
slippery
and keep
slope,
going.
man. Yeah,
It's a
don't use
slippery
Onyx
slope.
to.
Yeah, I mean, where do you draw the line?
Sure.
And that's, I said it earlier, we all have our own, code of ethics. Where you just have to draw that line yourself? And I just have a hard time trying to draw that line for someone else.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if you were to ask me what's the right way to kill a turkey, I would tell you the right way to kill a turkey is one where he just blinks his eyes and he doesn't open them again, and he's dead right there. I think that's the right way to kill a turkey.
Yeah.
Humane, no suffering, whatever. That's it. And everything that happens before that, I think just comes into question of of the individual. Just where do you draw the line of ethics up to that shot? So long the turkey's not going to look down from turkey heaven immediately after he gets killed and judge you on how
Yeah.
he got killed. I would assume,
Yeah.
whether you call him off a ridge and using nothing but a mouth call and number 6 shot out of a 12 gauge at 35 yards, or if you creep across the field behind a fan and shoot him at 3 yards, or whatever, with a bow or just with a rifle. I mean, I'm surprised that I kind of am, but kind of not. I'm kind of surprised that more people are more worked up about fanning, with a shotgun or with a bow versus, hunting them with a rifle that you can in, Western states. I don't know if you still can in Florida. Florida you used to be able to. But like nobody talks about that. It's just it's almost like it's so
Yeah.
far out there that we don't even bother to acknowledge it. But man, if fanning is quite the debate, these days.
It is. It's a contentious one, man, and that's why I said I will preface that conversation every time with my bias is, and this is how I feel. And it's the same thing with like shooting with the Reapers or whatever. Those big the guillotine broadheads.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's a super ethical death. I mean, dude, that's it. I mean, blink, done. That's it.
Yeah.
But like whatever reason, my bias is I don't like that, and a lot of it surrounds the the moments after that you see it you see online, and that's where I'm just like, I don't like it. Let's get out, get cranky. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
Let's get out of the weeds, man. Let's get out of the cesspool that is the internet. Last point on that. What a time to be alive, man. With such a blessing and a curse like social media. I mean, it is the best thing and the worst thing that's ever happened to humanity. And that's just what knocks you more on, but that's it, man. It's the best and the worst thing. So
yeah, the good thing is it gives everybody a billboard to share their opinion. The worst thing is that it gives everybody a billboard to share their opinions.
Yeah. We just need to add like one man. Like you get too squirrely online. Like it's like each person gets one free ass kicking. Where like I get to pick you to beat up one time. It's like my get out of jail free card. So
yeah, I would say that people at least, like we talked about earlier, that I think social media just isn't real life. Those people that are in the comment section, that's not who they really are, and they're going to act totally different if you're sitting right across the table from them, face to face. It's just, people are cowards, myself included. And I will openly admit that I've said things, in comment sections that I would not say to somebody's face, because of fear of getting my ass kicked.
I had one.
So I'm totally guilty of that.
Yeah, I had one guy get real squirrely in my DMs about something, and just nasty, and was just like, I'd love to talk to you, and so I sent my phone number. I'm like, you can call me literally anytime, man. And that was 10 months ago, and I have yet to to hear back. It's just like, hey man, I'm an open book, dude. You want to call, we'll talk it out. So what I want to ask you, you talked about that hunt that you had there, back home, and that was the moment where like you were hooked. It just felt different. It was personal. It was, that was the kind of the beginning of the I guess the dive into madness that is turkey hunting for you. So that were you able to go out again and hunt turkeys that same year, or did you have to sit around and just stew on it for a year? Do you remember?
I don't remember exactly, but if I had to guess, Tennessee, we've always had, pretty large bag limits. I guess in comparison to other states, we had four. We could kill four turkeys in the spring for a while, and then we got knocked down to three, and now we're two. And 20 years ago, I still think we were floating around that at least that three mark. I don't know if it was four yet or not. So I am confident I had more opportunities after that. I doubt it was, the last, couple weeks of the season when I killed that bird.
What was kind of like the transition? Did your hunting style start to change after that, or what? Like, what do you think was like the biggest change once the calls were set?
Oh yeah, my hunting style changed, tremendously because, like I said before, I just build those blinds and just ambush turkeys, when they walk by. And, then like I got the leafy suit and I was hiding in brush and the cover, and there was nothing between me and the turkeys except air. I wasn't in a blind. I wasn't doing any of that. And something change. I would change a little something almost every year. And I still do that. I think every hunter does that. Just, piddle and, tinker with whatever. And we do a little something different every year. But I think, it keeps it, keeps it exciting, keeps it different. I couldn't imagine doing the exact same thing every year and still be fired up about it. I have to change a little something and, just dip my toes in a little something different.
Sure. What's changing for 24? What's your big scheme, your grand scheme that's changing?
I'm kind of, well, I've had a Benelli, a Super Black Eagle since 2003 or whatever. I think the winter of 2003, my dad bought me that Super Black Eagle. He said, "This is your Christmas, your birthday, and your graduation present."
Yeah. Damn, Dad.
And yeah, and I've had that gun and I've killed every turkey with it. I'm pretty confident. Just a big heavy 12 gauge. And I think this year I'm gonna take the dip back and get a 28 gauge and start toting that thing around. Because after feeling some other guys, like 20 gauges and these other, real lightweight guns versus my 12-pound, duck gun, essentially, it's like, man, you don't need this big old thing. Now, I'm definitely not getting rid of the Benelli, and I will continue to use it, duck hunting and doing whatever. I'll probably still turkey hunt with it every now and then, but yeah, I think the change this year, I'm going to try and jump on the sub gauge bandwagon, I guess, so to speak.
Oh man, that's a good one. That's a good one. I've killed one, I think one turkey with a 20 gauge. The rest of them have been 12s, and I'm shooting 3.5-inch TSS out of the big old Browning A5, and it does the job, man. I don't shoot anything over 40 yards, and even that's like the max. I like the TSS just because, man, it is like it hits with such force that it is.
Well,
I've shot turkeys that don't even flop, man. They're just just down, But I'm with you. I picked up I think it was a Franke. It was a 20 gauge. I'm like, dude, this is like a 4-pound shotgun. This is insane. This is incredible. So I'm with you, man. I think I'm going to switch over and do that too. There's no reason to tote. I think my A5 is like 11 pounds, which sounds crazy, but then when you hold, it's a big deal. So
yeah, it gets heavy after a while, and I was like you here, except for the last couple of years, I would shoot those 3.5-inch shells TSS. I think I shot those Federals. They were like an 8 and 10 shot TSS blend. It was like 1,000 pellets in a 3.5-inch shell. It would flat cover up a pattern board,
Oh yeah.
And that's why I liked it. There were no gaps. It was just a beautiful, dense pattern. But also with that, I was finding a lot more stray pellets. I shoot kind of a more open choke, like a 670 choke out of that Benelli. And I was finding just more stray pellets down in the meat. Or I correct myself. My wife was finding all of those stray pellets in that meat and reminding me about every single one of them that she'd find. And so I I knocked down to a 3-inch shell last year, and it got a lot better. And I think actually I went on the Apex website, and I found some 2 3/4 TSS shells. And I got to thinking, I was like, man, I'm trying to knock down my pellet count, and try to eliminate some of these strays and everything else. I was like, and I got to thinking about my kids, or I was at least trying to use my kids as an excuse to get another shotgun. The 28 gauge, I was like, it doesn't have much recoil, my wife could use it dove hunting or whatever. She went with me. I was trying to come up with all these reasons,
Oh, yeah.
to get my pitch ready, to try to sell this to my wife, and, but yeah, she was pretty sold on it. So she didn't put up much of a fight, but,
There you
after
go.
trying to tinker with that big old 12 gauge and try to make it something that it probably really isn't, I was just saying to myself, just take the jump, get you a little gauge, a little 28 gauge, and just tote that thing everywhere and not have a sore shoulder from just carrying it all day.
Man, so that's it's not trying to make something that it's not. I mean, it changes the setup because I'm hunting with a duck gun too. It's Browning A5 Wiggle
Mhm.
Wing. Dude, it does. I mean, it's a great gun.
Yeah.
But it's a long barrel. It's big, and it
Mhm.
like I I've had to like pick certain setups or like adjust because of the length of that barrel because it's so
Mhm.
big. That's one of those like you just got to do it. You
Mhm.
just got to bite the bullet and or the $12 TSS shell and start fiddling around with it. So, um, did you get a chance to listen to the one with Brent Rogers? Did you have
I
time?
did, yeah. I got a little bit of windshield time today, and I got it knocked out.
Okay.
I listened to all my podcasts on like 1.75x speed or whatever because I just
Zip through it. Yeah.
yeah, I could get so backed up. But yeah, I got it knocked out in probably about an hour. I think it was about an hour and a half podcast, and
Yeah, it
I
ran a
knocked it
little
out in an
long.
hour.
Yeah. What'd you think, man, of that?
It was good. It was really good. I wish I did look up, after you and I talked the other day, I looked up those the AUK journals and
Yeah.
I found them online. And I didn't have time to read through a lot of them, but it was cool to I skimmed through a couple of
Yeah.
them and I'll have to go back and read them. But yeah, just talking about the early, like I guess the earliest known turkey hunting culture that you could find.
Yeah.
Uh, that's it was super interesting, carrying them across Europe. The fact that they took a turkey on a boat and that thing survived a trip across the Atlantic Ocean,
Isn't that
I
amazing?
think it blew my mind.
Yeah. Just think of like the and because it was more than one, you know? I
Oh,
mean, just
yeah.
I just it's just fascinating. It's endlessly fascinating to me, the effort that those people put in to take a damn turkey all the way
Mhm.
across the world simply because they tasted good. I mean, that's like some like it's so hard to wrap our minds around. Like, I
Yeah.
won't bring food home from a Mexican restaurant because it's gonna get soggy. You know what I mean? Like, and these guys are taking turkeys thousands of miles across the. I yeah, it's so fascinating, man. And it's just such a different time. But I thought and we talked about it. Brent and I did, where um, you kind of see that transition, at least in the writing, from killing turkeys just for food. You see it, and
Mhm.
we talk about it where it's like it's our turkey, and you start to see some ownership, and
Mhm.
you start to see some of that like early reverence for people. I think it was always there, um, but those early explorers and settlers, and I mean they were not as enthralled, I think, with wild turkeys as we are. They're more like they're good to eat. So, but it was cool. It's cool to see that transition. So
Yeah. I forget exactly when that really was that you saw that transition, but, or you read about it, but, it's we I want to say that we've come a long way, but in some cases, maybe we haven't as far as, the passion, the reverence for it. We still hold those that we still hold them very high up on a pedestal. And we look back to those earliest writings of, turkey hunting and everything else. And you get to, Tom Kelly and Gene Nunnery and the famous authors and the oodles and oodles of books that have been written about turkey hunting. It's been one continuous turkey hunting story. It seems like from, the very first ones all the way to, the turkey hunt story that we're telling right now. And there will be more to come, over the next several decades. I'm confident.
Yeah. That's a good statement. The turkey hunting story we're talking about right now. Like, I'll share just Brent told me a story, and I took it out. I edited it out of our from the final product, but he has like this hunt journal that every time he hunts a turkey, he writes about it, kill or no kill, just writes about the hunt. And I made the comment to him. I'm like, dude, in 50, 60 years, when we're long gone, like someone's going to be bidding on Brent Rogers' turkey hunting journal, because it's just like, it just becomes part of the, it becomes part of the culture, it becomes part of the excitement, it becomes part of the mystique and nostalgia, and in Hunter Farrier books, someone, in 100 years, someone's like, oh, if you read Any Given Sunday, I got this signed copy by this guy, Hunter Farrier. It's worth $1,000. It's just part of the, it's part of the story, man. And it's cool that it's like that. I love seeing that like that animal move, and just things just keep, like you said earlier, like you wanted to, it's passion for you that you want to pass on. And it's neat to see that passion that's been passed on for, centuries. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and if you think about it, literally anybody that's been on a handful of turkey hunts could probably write a decent turkey hunting book. I'm not saying, like, I'm not trying to discredit, some of these great writers that we have, but I think that, just sharing those experiences that you have, even if, let's say if it's your first year turkey hunting and you went on like 5 or 6 or even 10 turkey hunts, and if you encountered birds, a handful of those times, like, you could still put together a half decent turkey book, just because, there's guys like us that just love reading and hearing about turkey hunting stories. And that's, one of the things that draws so many people to, the turkey hunting world, is the storytelling. And there are, the turkey hunting world has storytellers like unlike anywhere else. It's amazing that we can paint a picture of this crazy, 15 to 20 pound bird that sounds weird, our first thing in the morning, and, has hooks on its legs and just has this old wrinkly face. Yeah. We could take all that and just make a beautiful story out of their, the turkey's day-to-day life. From the turkey's point of view, he's just, trying to make it through the day. And meanwhile, we're over here painting this vast and majestic picture of what our couple of hours experience was like with him, just in a single part of his day. And we think it's the greatest thing ever.
Can't get enough of it, man. It just, when you put it in that terms, like, it just really sounds ridiculous, doesn't it?
It is.
It out loud, it just sounds absurd.
Well, that's another thing I've accepted, is like, my wife reminds me of how absurd and crazy I am about this bird. At the end of the day, it's the same bird you can buy at Kroger, and you can shoot those things in Kroger one time, but that's it.
Oh man, that's good. That's good stuff, dude. So Parker and I have talked about this. Do you have any like weird like rituals you do with turkeys after you kill them? Like, Parker got me on opening the crawl and the gizzard and going through it and just like taking out the stones. That was something because I've never kept those stones, the rocks. And I'm like, God, what have I done? I've missed. And so I did that for the first time. Do you have anything that you do that's kind of like weird, like a weird, I'll say trophy in air quotes, but just something funny?
No, I've started keeping the stones the last handful of years too, because admittedly, there were several birds where the stones were the only things I kept because, if you line up, like say, Easterns here in Tennessee, you line up a bunch of Eastern fans, unless they have some kind of, characteristic like, the zebra stripes or, something different about the fan. You line up a bunch of fans and beards and even spurs, unless they're like super long or something. I mean, you can't really tell those things apart unless you have a note underneath, one of them, each one of them. And so, but the stones are different out of every single bird that I've ever killed.
That's a great point. Yeah.
Except for maybe there's been, a couple birds off the same property, and I guess they would have like similar stones, but like you take an Eastern from Mississippi, you take an Eastern from Alabama, Georgia, and you take an Eastern from every state they're located in, and you line those stones up, like it'll tell you, it almost paints a picture of where that turkey's from. And I saved the stones from the Gould's turkey from down in Mexico, and those stones were cool, lava rocks and the
bright red,
all the different colors, and Wyoming and Oklahoma and Montana and all these handful of states that I've been to, they you can look at the stones and almost visualize where that turkey came from and not even have to look at his fan or anything. So yeah, admittedly, I'd keep the stones and I'd either give the fans away or just do whatever with the fans. But I like keeping the stones, and I don't give away those Miriam's fans over when I go out west. I keep those things because they're just gorgeous to me.
Yeah,
I keep every Miriam's and Rio fan.
Man, I've got to get my hands on a Miriam. I got to get out there this year. So this is, I don't know if you can see this. This is a jar full of Buckeyes.
Oh yeah.
So Ohio State. So this is just an old like I don't know, like mason jar. It's huge. It's full of Buckeyes. Yeah. And then so I've got, you can't see it, but I've got bags of shells or stones. And I've got 2 bags of stones in there. And then there are 5 turkey fans inside of this thing, like parts of 5 different turkeys. There's a pheasant. There's a couple feathers that I just found, but it's just something. And I've got a couple of these, like just bottles or jars that, that's what I just, I pluck some feathers out and throw them in there, and that's it, man. Yeah, dude, it's layered up. You can't, it's hard to tell over a call, but, if I get skunked in a state like this is, I don't even know where, but all of the loose feathers are states that I got skunked in. I just through scouting and hunting, I'm like, I'm taking something. And so these are my,
it's at least a participation trophy.
Yep. So these are, dude, I take one. These are all states that I've been skunked in right here. Yeah, I'm sure there's more loose ones in here. So that's the, I don't know. There's and there's probably more of them around, but that's, anytime I get skunked, I'm like, I will find a turkey feather. I'm taking it home with me. I don't even know what states they're from. So
I am going to start saving all my fans again because I saw Lake Pickle post a video sometime this past spring of where he would take his fans and put them on a pegboard and kind of have them like layered, going vertically up this pegboard.
Oh, it's wild. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
So I am gonna start doing that, and keeping all my fans and just put them, like on the back wall of my office or just whatever, because it's unique. And I mean, even if you do, fill up a board with Easterns or just all the same, subspecies or whatever, it still looks cool. So yeah, I'll start doing that.
I caped 2 of them out this year for like the I've seen people will do like feather art.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna do and I can send you some pictures of ones that I thought I want to do, because I do want to get a Grand Slam. So I've got my Osceola that I'll do, and then I kept an Eastern out of this year. So next year I'm gonna hunt. I do have a Rio hunt planned in Texas. I don't have a Merriam's hunt yet, but that's how I want to display my Grand Slam. I want them to be in the frames. I think that'll be kind of cool, man. So this is the other like weird thing that I do. I keep the feathers attached to the legs. And then
okay.
Yeah. So it's the whole thing. I borax the whole thing, dude. I get all the meat out. I still have to like trim this up, but I keep a little rim. I keep a little rim of feathers on. So that's another
That's
weird
pretty
little.
unique.
They
Is
just
that an
yeah.
Osceola leg right there?
That's an Osceola leg right there. So
Hmm.
I think that's just a big old fat Ohio bird. But yeah, there's the feathers, man. I don't know, weird. And this
I
is good.
I was gonna say I am. I had all of my turkeys, or at least one from every subspecies, mounted. I did. I am going to do that, or I think I still need to get an Eastern and a Osceola mounted, but I got my Goulds and a Miriam and a Rio. Got those all mounted, and I got to come up with some way to display them all, like on some corner of the house or whatever. Everyone I've had done, I told the taxidermist, just put like a basic base under them right now because I want to take them off and just like set them on something else. So that I'm trying to get them like done in different poses too.
Okay.
I think my Miriam, and I'm actually going to have my Miriams and a Rio redone because the guy that did those, he did a great job. It was a guy from back home, but he quit doing turkeys, and I took my Goulds to John Beard. Like, is it Birds Only or Beards Only? I forget the exact name, but he's he's kind of well known in the Southeast, and he actually lives like 30 minutes away from me.
No
And I didn't even know that until a couple of years after I'd heard about the guy. But anyway, he does phenomenal work. I mean, the birds look alive, and I walked around his studio, and I wish I could go into his studio every day and just drink a cup of coffee and walk around and look at all those birds, every one that he's worked on every day. But I took my Goulds over there to him, and just the quality of work that he does on a day-to-day basis, because that's in his company name, Birds Only, Turkeys Only, essentially.
Yeah.
The quality is just unmatched from the other two. And so I think I'm going to have a Miriam's and a Rio done by John Beard. Yeah. Just so they all have that same, that quality. I want them all to match. Yeah. So, but yeah, I'll figure out some way to display them somewhere in my house. The Miriam's I have strutting because it's hard not to, show off those white tips. And the Rio I have, and I try to have them mounted in a way like that I remember seeing them like sometime during the hunt, like something that kind of stuck out to me. The Miriams, of course, they're just gorgeous, strutting. You see the white tips. The Rio came in, just gobbling and strutting. So he that's how he got mounted, like gobbling in strut. The Goulds, oddly enough, I didn't have, strutting or anything. It was more like I guess kind of a half strut or a quarter strut almost. You can still see the whites of his, tail fan. It's like semi fanned out, but he's like on alert because when we called him up, I chose not to use any decoys or tried to, when I went after my Goulds when it was my turn on the gun. And so when he came into view, he was out of range. I actually didn't get a shot at the bird during the hunt that I'm talking about. But he came up out of that ditch or out of that canyon just on alert, looking for the hen, never saw it, and the Goulds that I actually killed, it was kind of, I'll kind of spare everybody the long story, but long story short, we were kind of on a time crunch and we needed to get our tags and get out of there. And so I was one of the last ones on the gun. And so I just, kind of gave in and, decided that, okay, we'll use decoys, to get our tags filled and so we can go. But the Goulds that I killed legit, like just walked into the spread, decoy spread, didn't gobble, didn't strut. I mean, it just kind of looked like this puny looking bird, and he had a little old wispy beard, and the guide actually wanted me to wait. He was like, wait, there's another one gobbling and strutting, over the hill or whatever, and we can wait for him to come in to get a better show. And I'm a turkey hunter, first and foremost. I'm not a trophy hunter. I said, I'm killing this bird.
Yeah.
He was in range and he gave me a shot. So I got that one. But
yeah, you don't know what's going to happen. That other boy might not come in,
Oh yeah. I have never passed up a a tom turkey, a goblin turkey.
Yeah.
But oddly enough, I had my mount look like that other bird, from the hunt that I didn't even kill him. Because I just remember that hunt so much better. We called him from like half a mile away across the canyon, and he put on a show out of range. And I don't know, it was just, I remember that hunt so much more that I would have rather the turkey that I killed look like the turkey I didn't kill. I don't know if that makes sense. Maybe it's weird, and maybe I should have just had him, look like the way he did, just walking in, kind of plain.
Just there.
Just there. I could have done that, but I don't know. It really wouldn't have done a Gould's justice, I guess, because it may be the only Gould I ever killed too.
Sure.
So yeah, I just I try to visualize, either what that turkey looked like during the hunt, or something like that, and that's how I want him to look, as a mount.
Yeah. Do you have any hunts that are just emblazoned in your mind that you'll remember the rest of your life? I mean, you could probably sit and think of like every turkey hunt that you've ever been on. You could probably remember, a point in the day. But do you have any one or two?
Yeah, there are a handful of hunts that I remember, and honestly, throughout high school and my early years of college, a lot of those turkeys are kind of a blur because it was a lot of private land, and they were, honestly, a lot of them were kind of the same, I guess, because I was using that Pretty Boy decoy for years and using a lot of decoys, and more often than not, the turkeys would come in, interact with the decoys, and I'd get a shot. And it wasn't really until I tried, I started weaning myself off of decoys and changing the way I hunt and changing my setups and changing the way I call and all these other different things, where I really started making some more memorable hunts, to me anyway. And I don't know, there are a couple from out of state. Like when Jacob and I travel, I remember every turkey that we killed on those trips. Because it's sharing the woods with him is always awesome, and we always make memories in whatever that we do. Even in the fall, we go out west hunting. But I remember, there was a bird in Oklahoma. It was actually the bird that I got mounted back here. He came gobbling in down a creek bottom, and I remember that hunt pretty well. He and I both, kind of tag team called that bird in with fighting purrs and everything else. And he came in gobbling and strutting and everything. And let's see, the Goulds, he was with me on the Goulds hunt. So I remember, that hunt. I remember when he killed his bird too. Let's see, the hunts from, Montana this past year. I'll remember those. The Oklahoma hunts from this past year. We got a good friend of mine. We got his son, his first bird, and it was a perfect off the roost Rio hunt. And we actually filmed it. Another guy that was with us, it was actually his brother-in-law. He filmed the entire thing, and we got it up on YouTube on my YouTube channel. And it's it's just pieced together video. It's no kind of cinematography masterpiece at all. But
yeah,
that's a hunt that I'll remember forever. And then I helped another buddy, Adam Cruz, his son. We got him his first bird this spring. I'll remember that one forever. Let's see. I don't know. There was a turkey one time back, let's see, I think it was like back in 2016 or 17 or somewhere around in there, that got hung up on this hog wire fence. And I'm looking back now, I had the most awful setup that you could ever imagine. Like I was up against a tree out in the middle of this field, because I was hunting with decoys with a buddy of mine, and these turkeys would just go way out of range, around our decoys or whatever. And so I had this big bright idea that I'd just go set up on this tree out in the middle of this field, and they'd walk right by me, since they didn't want anything to do with the edge of the woods that we were sitting in. And so we're sitting out in the middle of this field up against this tree, no cover. I mean, there's nothing. Looking back, I was like, golly, dude, what were you doing? But I heard this turkey gobble up on the hill across this busy, 2-lane, highway, essentially. He was up on top of this hill up in the woods, and he started gobbling or whatever. And I told my buddy Chad, I was like, man, there's no way, we can call this turkey all afternoon. There's no way he's coming down here. And we could kind of hear him. He kept gobbling, and we heard him come down the hill. Well, at the bottom of this hill by the road, there was like a couple, house trailers and whatever. There were some houses right there. Dogs were barking at this turkey. We could hear him like in the backyard of these houses. And we're like, oh, great. The dog's going to eat him up before he even gets over here. And dogs are raising Cain with this bird. Well, I guess he makes it out of the yard, and we hear him gobbling like right on the other side of the road. And there's cars going by and trucks and tractor trailers and everything else. And I'm like, yep, there's no way he's going to get hit by a car. He's going to die before he gets here. Sure enough, he makes it across the dang highway, and he gets to this hog wire fence. It was like, I don't know, I think it was like 100 yards away from us. Now, take a step back. We've hunted this place. It was a farm, a friend of mine's, and we had hunted this place for the last couple of days, and we had hunted a lot in this one pasture that was, fenced off, had gates and everything else. He was keeping cattle off of it for hay or whatever. But all week, essentially, we would see turkeys jump over the fence, jump over the gates, and come into this field and, just do whatever. But this one particular gobbler, for some reason, did not want to jump over that fence. And he paced. It was like a 10-foot section of fence. He paced along this section of fence so much for like 4 hours, it seemed like. I think it was exactly 4 hours, actually, because we started hunting at like 2 something, or he got up to this fence at like 2 something, and he went back to roost at like 6 something. And he finally just paced so much, he wore like the grass down to mud, like right next to this fence. And he just sat there and he'd gobble every now and then. And of course, we were stupid us. We're sitting out in the middle of this field. We couldn't crawl on this turkey. We couldn't maneuver without him seeing us at all. So we just had to sit there and watch him. And we just watched that turkey forever. And come sunset, he just turned right back around, went back up to the hill and flew up to roost. And that was it. But I will never, ever forget sitting there all afternoon and just watch that turkey pace. And, thinking back to myself, or thinking back now, hunting the way I do now. And, I've learned so much, year after year. I was like, God, you were an idiot. Just sitting in the middle of this field thinking you'd kill a turkey. And sure enough, I mean, for all I knew, if that fence wasn't there, he probably could have come right in that field and just got shot. But nope, he didn't want to hop over that fence that day. So he just paced there and teased us for the rest of the afternoon.
Fence lines save lives, man.
There was a high fence turkey hunting, like the bad side of high fence hunting. Like they can't get to you.
Joey Bell, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for your time and your perspective and man, where so tell the people listening to this show, talk about SoCo that you're doing, talk about some of the other podcasts that you're running.
Yeah, I'm been hanging out with the Southern Collective, Parker McDonald and Walter Lee, Brett Mashburn and Matthew Reeves. Those guys have been really hitting, the whitetail woods hard this year. And so they're cranking out a lot of deer content. Check them out on YouTube, and you can subscribe to their podcast to hear all their whitetail adventures. And they've kind of brought me on just as, kind of the turkey guy, because I'm useless in any kind of whitetail or deer hunting podcast, but I will ramble all day and night about turkey hunting, whatever. So they kind of brought me on and said, hey, let's start some turkey content every now and then. So we released one episode, I think in the past month or so, and we just recorded another one. So it's, pretty sporadic, throughout the fall and winter until spring. But yeah, I'm their turkey guy. So that's what we're doing over there. And I am not a YouTuber, or I do have a Insta360 that I just bought used, and I'm gonna try to figure out how to work that thing and try to film some hunts. But I am absolutely the world's worst about documenting my hunts. I'm lucky to snap a picture, a gripping grin at the end of the day. But I'm trying to get better about, documenting my hunts because, I've got a poor memory as it is. So if nothing else, I'll have it for my own benefit later down the road.
Right. Good stuff, man. Do you want to give out your social media contact information?
Yeah,
handles, whatever the hell they're doing?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram like everybody else, and Facebook. Just search, Joey Bell. I think my Instagram handle is Reverend 434. It's an old college nickname, so you can find me there and find some mostly turkey content and or some turkey pictures and nonsense and some stuff about my kids too.
There you go, man. Joey Bell, thanks for your time, my friend.
Hey, thank you, Paul. It was a pleasure.